everyone, it's Stephanie again, and you are tuned into the review of Married at First Sight, Season 15, Episode 6. Before we get started, don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be the first to find out when I post these videos. All right, before we jump into this week's review, I want to circle back. Last week I ended the video with my very first product, and so I wanted to start this week's video with it and share with you guys my conversation starter card game called Sip and Share, a fun way to be nosy. There are questions about relationships and life and career and sex and all these things in between, and it is hours of conversation. It is creating new connections. It's deepening current connections. It's great for game night. It's also great if you're just playing with your partner or your spouse. I've seen people do both with family and friends. Clearly, we've learned in the last couple of years that human connection is completely necessary. It is the foundation of being humans, and it's really important that we maintain that connection no matter how many things we have at our fingertips. We have so many devices, but we're not connecting anymore. So I'm excited about all the great things that I've heard so far about this card game, and I wanted to share with you guys. Again, I will put the website here as well as in the description box. It comes in this super cute magnetic box, so it's travel friendly. You don't have to worry about it getting all busted up because it's sturdy, and you can take it with you. And then these beautiful red cards with great questions. So guaranteed you will get to know something new about yourself or whoever you're playing with. And it'll be really, really great. So I'm excited for you guys to have it, and let me know if you do get it. Let me know what you think. Send me your videos. Let me know, what else you want. There are so many decks coming, but this is my first one, Sip and Share, a fun way to be nosy. So don't forget to get it. All right, let's kick it into this week's review. I think that this week had a lot going on. So if you've watched this week's review, if you've watched this week's episode, then you already know. So I'm not giving a synopsis of the episode. I'm just gonna jump right in. And I'm gonna start with Morgan and Binh. So Morgan and Binh, to me, like I said last week, I think that they have like a really great chemistry. I don't necessarily think that had they met in like just a normal setting without being, on this show, that maybe they would have like gravitated to each other, because they seem very different. But I think given what we have known about them and how I think a lot of us, based on your comments, are saying that they're not necessarily equally yoked in what we would want to see, I think that they're having a good time. And Binh is hilarious. Binh had me laughing most of the time. I think he's hilarious. I think they have a good little rapport. However, they did hit a major speed bump this episode, and it was going around on social media. I follow some accounts, and they were, asking about this whole thing with Morgan. Essentially, on the application, which she was a month out from obtaining her degree, her BSN, she said that she already had it. So there was this whole dialogue about, should she have said that? Is she a liar? Binh basically essentially called her a liar, but then there was a lot of miscommunication and a lot of misunderstanding in terms of, oh, she's not a nurse. Well, she's been a nurse. There are different levels to nursing, just like there's different levels to everything. So she's been a nurse, and he thought that she wasn't really a nurse, and he came off very judgmental. And the biggest thing was that he shared it with Justin, who shared it with Alexis. So Morgan basically told Binh not to share this information. She just shared it just so he knew something between them. So he ruined her trust. And really you have to be careful about that, because if you're telling someone who has a spouse, a lot of times spouses pillow talk. Like, this is not abnormal. It would have just been smart for Binh to have circled back to Alexis and said, hey, I'm sorry, to Alexis. If he would have circled back to Morgan and said, hey, what does this mean? Let's talk about this, or here my concerns are. I'm so glad that Binh had this moment of, I overreacted, because I really do think that he overreacted. I think that anybody can understand, and this is now just a matter of opinion, because some people say, no, at the time, she didn't have her degree, she lied, so forget it. Even though by the time this whole process would have taken place, she would have had it. And then some people would say, listen, she's a month out. Like, if she's done all these years, clearly she has one class left. She has her degree. It's a matter of opinion. I don't think it was that big of a deal, to be honest. I really don't. And I do think he overreacted, and I do think that there's something there. I don't know what is there that came up for him in the sense of being so triggered by that. But there's something there. He came off pretty judgmental, and he also came off judgmental with her student loans and her family. I feel like although I like Binh, I think he is a nice guy. I think he's fun. I think that he is like emotionally disconnected in some way, or unable at this point, based on what we've seen, to be like attuned to, you know, being supportive and understanding. He's very kind of like, this is what it's supposed to be. Well, you can't do that with people. People are the variable where you have to be able to be flexible and be open, which we saw towards the end of the episode that he was kind of getting there and realizing the error of his ways when she was very clear. And I'm glad that she was very clear about being hurt, being upset, and her trust being broken. I feel like he's very close to his family. Everybody doesn't have that dynamic. So rather than seeking to understand, I feel like he sought to kind of understand in a way where he didn't really want to understand. He was just like, okay, this doesn't coincide with what I have and what I wanted. He has this checklist and she doesn't meet it because she doesn't have a strong relationship dynamic with some of her family members, and also because she has student loans. So that felt to me like, okay, are you really ready to be married? Because if this person would have met these checklists, you know, for your boxes, there's something that they wouldn't have met, because no one meets everything. And Binh, you don't meet everything either. So I think this whole situation, because they were able to kind of wrap it up in a bow and work through it, you know, it seemed like they worked through it towards the end of the episode. It's important that he's able to see that, okay, these things are not going to be 100%, have to be open to what is, rather than this thing that I expected it to be and it's not. So it shows also a lack of maturity from Binh. His response, I thought his response to her was just really cold. And, you know, they took a couple of steps back, but I'm glad that they were able to turn it around and say, you know what, we had some difficult conversations. And you know what, maybe the honeymoon wasn't the best place to have it, but we're stronger for it and we needed to have it and we can move forward. Time will tell with these two though, because I don't know. I don't get this like, oh, they're so great together vibe. Like, even though it's early, I don't get that naturally. So we're starting to see some of the stuff that may come up for him, in terms of his rigidity. And, you know, she's like not some wallflower either. So she is going to say what she needs to say, and she's gonna, I feel like, hold him accountable. I like their dinner where they talked about, you know, their needs and their wants, and she said, here, if you say these things, or if there's someone who's significant to me who hurts me in this way, this is how I feel, this is what that means for me. It's important that they talk about that, because these are things that they would have genuinely got to know had they been dating, you know, the traditional way. So that is Morgan and Binh. Yeah, you know, so far so good. So far so good. But I personally didn't think it was that big of a deal. I think that it was just, it's a matter of opinion, and I think that, you know, they have some work to do. They really do. All right, Alexis and Justin. So, you know what? This episode, I actually enjoyed Alexis and Justin. Listen, they're in this pink cloud, they're in this love bubble. You know, the fact that Alexis softened so much, because we know Alexis comes with her daggers. Alexis softened so much and said, I love you too. For me, it's not my thing, you know, because I feel like love encompasses so many layers and so many things about someone. Love encompasses that I may not always like you, but I love you. Like, they haven't experienced anything. None of these couples have, which is why, and I'm all over the place this review, that's just how it's gonna go. Which is why when they're all getting on Miguel about him not knowing how he feels about Lindy yet, or if he's gonna stay with her, y'all have known each other for like 6 days. Like, you guys are on a honeymoon. You've not experienced life together and how you guys are when you come home from work, when you're stressed, when there's responsibilities, when there's family issues. There's so many things, financial issues, like there's so many things that haven't happened yet. So this is not really an accurate depiction of this person. Like, most people are great on vacation. Most people are pleasant and having a good attitude and trying new things. We're not kayaking every day. We're not parasailing every day. Like, what's it like when you are stuck in traffic for an hour and you come home and you're starving and your work sucked, and you know, what are you like then? But they are in their love bubble. One of the things that I gave Alexis a little bit of a gold star because although I think she does like Justin. I don't think Justin is her type, but I think she's finding a way to kind of give her all in this experiment. I love that when she was talking to Krysten, she related herself to Mitch and saying that, you know, I had to kind of recognize that although I saw someone who, you know, traditionally isn't my type, I was able to get out of my own way and not, you know, ruin maybe like the biggest blessing of my life. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but getting out of her own way and having that self-awareness to really take this experiment seriously. This is what this experiment is about. You ask for something, you may not get exactly the thing, because we all have this idea of this is what it needs to be, this is who it needs to look like. Being open to the fact that what you thought you wanted is not necessarily the best thing for you. What you're getting might be the thing you need. Thing is in person, obviously, but that could go for anything. Being open to life's pivots. And I think I really like respected her in that moment for being able to say that, like, naturally he wasn't my type, but you know, I had to get out of my own way, and hoping that Mitch would do the same for Krysten. This is the conversation with her and Krysten. So I enjoyed watching that because there's self-awareness there. I also really enjoyed watching Alexis and Justin at dinner with everyone the last night, because the talking to each other while other couples are talking, and you're kind of like, is this like, that is, they gave me the energy of a couple who've been together a long time, because this is what we do, okay? We go out to dinner with a bunch of couples and something's not adding up over here, you're kind of like, oh, well, that wasn't right. Like, what? We'll talk about it when we get to the room. So it was really funny just to see them have that very like casual, like long-term feel, because it was very accurate. And I like the way that they spoke up, as like they gave me OG couple, even though they're new just like everybody else, but I like the way that they offered what they had to say to the group, offered feedback to different people, offered, you know, opposition to different people, and different insights and posing questions. They felt to me like they were on the same page most genuinely. So I really enjoyed watching Alexis and Justin. Here's how, I don't know. If Alexis is meant for Justin, I think, and I'm gonna stay in a hopeful place, I think she demonstrated that when they went back to the room and Justin got emotional again. He got emotional again about Binh and Morgan. That, I don't know, for me, that was a lot, okay? So I told you guys at the beginning of these reviews, I give both professional and personal, okay? I'm gonna give you some insight on things that I see, but I'm also a viewer who watches just like you all. Justin is a lot. That is a lot for me. You know, being emotional at the wedding, cool. You know, crying because your friend is of 6 days is, you know, his lady is kind of, you know, concerned. That's a lot for me. And I think it's a lot for her, but the way that she was able to really support him, she really supported him very well in that moment, where a lot of other people who may not do well with that would have been like, okay, what is going on? Like, why are you crying about this? Or would have been, you know, put off to where they maybe didn't want to engage because it's like, I don't know what to do with this. She really supported him and brought him back down and, like, you know, enveloped him in like this love, if you will. And, you know, it gave me the when they were at the table, and I think Miguel said, okay, here are the things that Justin is doing for Alexis. What is Alexis doing for Justin? And she kind of said this, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I have a suitcase of lingerie and I'm taking care of my man. A lot of people at first were like, you know, what does that mean? You know? And then towards the end of her conversation, you can say, okay, she's there for him. She's supporting him. That was a great example of what she is doing that may not be so outwardly noticeable, because Justin's like, well, if she's getting up, I'm making her a smoothie and I'm walking the dog. So then people start to go tit for tat. Well, okay, if Justin is doing these things, what is Alexis doing? What Alexis may be doing might not be as visible to you, but might be so significant. So when she did that, for me, as I was watching, that whole moment came together of her explaining how she supports him, and then watching her really do it in a moment where he needed it, you know? So I enjoyed watching them. I'm looking forward to seeing how things transition. The end where he was so happy that she said, "I love you." Like, it's cute for them. I enjoyed the episode. Like, I'm going to leave it at that because I'm not them, so I don't know. But I think it was funny to watch them. They had a good time. I want to circle back to Morgan and Binh real quick. Morgan saying that she needs this, she needs that, she needs this, she needs that, and when she comes home she can't do this, so hope he can do that. Girl, why did you get married? And I see these memes all the time on social media of like, can you imagine like working all day and then coming home and having to talk to someone or having to take care of kids? Well, if you can't imagine that, then don't get married and don't have kids, because you're gonna have to do that. You're gonna have to come home and talk to someone who's there. And it's really important that you like really wrap your mind around that. Before kids, you can kind of say, babe, I need like 30 minutes just to decompress. I need this. And that adult more often than not can give you that. But you can't just put them on pause until your day off or when you feel like it. So she felt really selfish. And I'm glad that the group kind of was like side-eyeing her on some like, what are you doing here? Like, how's this going to work? How is he going to fit into that? That's going to be a problem. But that came up for me when I was talking about Alexis and Justin. Okay, so moving on, Lindy and Miguel. Lindy and Miguel, I really, really like them still. Once again, I feel like they have the most natural chemistry. I feel like they both overthink. I don't know if she is even really showing up as who she is, because she is just trying to, like, a part of her feels very naturally bubbly and agreeable, but then the other part of me feels like she is going with however she needs to go for this to feel good. Like she wants to be a pleaser. It's too early to have this decision. They're trying to kind of account for miscellaneous. Well, miscellaneous is miscellaneous. You can't account for it. So living and just having the experience is really, really important. So she really needs to do that. And I know she has fears of, okay, what if we get to the end of this 8 weeks and he's not into it? Well, that's a risk that you took in doing this. And him saying, well, it needs to be this way, and these things need to, like her trying to fit in these little boxes and him having these boxes. I really hope that somebody intercedes very quickly and say, you guys need to stop and just be. The way that they consummated their marriage and talked about it naturally, separately, they talked about it like in cohesion, about the experience being so beautiful and so unifying and so connective. And that was natural. It's like they did it and they felt great about it, and it wasn't this thing that they had to think about, and so they were able to be in that space. They need to do that with this marriage, because if they continue to get in the way, then they're going to self-sabotage. Because he's very cerebral in how he's thinking about this, and she is super analytical, but from an emotional component as well, trying to figure out these things that you just can't figure out. So if I were there, I would tell them, like, please, and I hope that I see this, that they get out of their own ways. Like, stop thinking, well, you have to wait till the 8 weeks to figure it out. Stop thinking that these things have to be, perfect for you to be able to make a decision. And I want to know, has he been in love? Like, I feel like Miguel, he said, he's met great women and he's been in great relationships, but there's something that doesn't work out, and so then he has to break up with them. Once, twice, okay, but like every time, you might be the problem here. And we all know that Lindy doesn't have too much experience, so I feel like she is going to do her best to hold on by any means necessary. And she's very smart, she's very smart and she's very self-aware, but I just don't want her to like try to protect him, and then like forget to protect herself, which I think when the women were talking, Stacia and I believe Morgan and Lindy, I think that's why Stacia got so emotional, because maybe she was seeing the way that she used to be in past toxic relationships. Maybe she was seeing like an element of that. And I love that Lindy said, no, like I've had a lot of shame around these things and I'm happy and it was natural and it was beautiful and I'll let you know. I'm glad that she was able to be honest in that moment. But that type of like assertion and that type of like, hey, I am in charge of how I feel and what I'm doing and this is great. That type of like stand up in it, I want her to be able to do that with Miguel. So yeah, I you know, time will tell with them. You know, I feel like she was rescuing him at the table when Stacia was about to go in, saved by the mariachi band. Stacia was about to go in with Miguel, kind of like, what's your deal? Because Miguel does stand at this place that is very like, almost like dissociative, and he is looking down, you know, like, and it's like, no, come on down, King. We're all together. We're all having this process together. Like, let your transparency shine just like the rest of us so we can get to know you, but you can also trickle that onto your spouse so that you give yourself the best chance. But I do love that when she was Lindy was kind of, you know, saying, well, I'm worried about this, I'm concerned about this. I'm glad that he was able to say, stop, you know, stop. It's not a thing now. Let's not make it a thing. You know, I think that will be good for her long term. And that's part of like the help that she said she needed. Like, when I start to spin, I need someone to kind of help me. And it was easy. It was quick. It was just like, okay, just relax. It's not that serious. So yeah, that is Lindy and Miguel. I think they continue to have really great conversations. I enjoy watching them. And yeah, so that's them. All right, Stacia and Nate. I am loving seeing soft Stacia. And I feel like we have gotten like bits and pieces of that, like every episode. You know, they presented her as this, you know, boss, and, you know, she's rough around the edges and very directed. But like, I think she's so excited for this process and so serious about it that she is really giving her all, and she is being vulnerable, and it's not forced. She's offering these things. And you know, I hope she's in therapy. I hope they all are. You know, everybody needs to be. But there's a lot of stuff that comes up for her on the surface, and you can see it. And she gets so emotional. I know she's gone to therapy. I love that she brought that up to Nate. And I love that she said, like, no, nothing has to be wrong. Like, we haven't done this before. Let's get some tools. Let's make sure. And I think a lot of people miss that with therapy. They wait until their lives are falling apart and they're like, fix me. It doesn't work that way. You know, there's nothing wrong with going in and just processing. Life is always happening. So you don't have to be at this breaking point to now, you know, say, well, you know, once upon a time in 1982, like, you don't have to start that far back. You can really kind of work on keeping yourself together and work on some old issues and work on some current ones, or work on things so they don't become an issue. So I love that she supports that. And I just love seeing her softness, because it gives a different insight to who she is. And I think this process is helping her do that. I love that this season, for me, feels like a really good connection with all of them, because last season felt messy from the beginning. But this season, like, I know that a lot of the couples sometimes will ask each other stuff, and I know they're prompted, but this season feels genuinely like, really care about you, I've known you for 6 days, really care about you, here's my concern. And I feel like people are genuinely connecting, and they're genuinely saying, I'm not offended by that, thank you for letting me know, or here, don't worry about that, that's not really a thing. Like, I enjoy seeing the dynamic with the whole group, and it feels constructive. It doesn't feel like, for now, drama filled or like so inauthentic like it has felt in other seasons. But the thing that Lindy and Miguel brought up is exactly how I felt. I was watching it with my husband, and when Stacia and Nate were having that picnic, and he was like talking about, yeah, I'll go to therapy, I said to my husband, his body language and his words don't match. It's like his body language wants to say no. His body language is like, we don't need that. It's like, no, I'm not into that. Like, but then he said, yeah, for sure. I think that Nate wants to be better. I think he doesn't necessarily know how. I do think that he wants to be genuine. Like, I think that he is wanting to really do this thing, especially if he connects with Stacia. I don't think he necessarily knows how. He has not had a connection with his mother. You know, that dynamic would bring about so much emotional intelligence for him and emotional connection. He doesn't know how to do that. His mother wasn't around. I mean, that's the first woman you learn it from, especially from a male, you know, and so now you're engaging with women and you don't really know how to do that, you know. That's why the conversation with the guys, when he was, you know, Miguel was like, hey, you know, it's a natural thing, and that's his perspective, and I totally get that. But you can tell that Nate, for him, it's like, yeah, it's natural, but like you can tell that Nate probably has been with tons of women as an exchange of whatever, with no true connection, and so he's wanting that connection with Stacia to make it something so special, whereas Miguel probably operates in connection, you know, that's just his vibe, so they might be different there. So you can see that Nate wants it. And one thing, if you circle back to the wedding, I don't know what he asked his dad, but his dad, either the wedding or brunch or something, but I remember his dad saying, nah, man, I don't cry, you know, like I don't do that. So your mother is not around, and then you have a father who is not necessarily emotionally present in that way, or giving you kind of the green light to be present in your emotions and be expressive in your emotions. So I don't think he knows how. So although I'm saying, yeah, he gives me Playboy vibes, and I'm getting why people are saying that he's inauthentic, and even Stacia's like, listen, I don't know what his deal is, and I'm still kind of waiting to see. I am 100% in agreement with that, but I also think he doesn't know how. So time will tell, and I think Pastor Cal would be perfect to bring in this male figure that is emotionally intelligent and can give him some tools to be able to connect in that way, and maybe you know, Dr. Pepper too, so that he can start to do some of that work, and I think it will be beneficial for them. So yeah, that's the thing that stuck out for me with Stacia and Nate. Last but not least, we have Krysten and Mitch. I don't think we saw too much of Krysten and Mitch this episode. You know, we saw them, you know, doing some activities. We saw them, you know, spend some time together and kind of affirm that they are moving forward and they are feeling each other a little bit, and well, feeling each other a lot, you know, and having a good time. And they almost crossed the threshold, you know, one time. It still feels like, you know, I really wish that Mitch's brother would have said, like, just see how it goes. You've been on this honeymoon for a day. Don't tell her that. Figure out who she is, get to know her, and then go from there. You know, give it a chance. I like that he said, listen, you didn't vow to be attracted to her at first sight. You vowed to be with her. So let that be. I like that he gave that, but I wish he would have said, just pause on this quick need to let her know you're not attracted, because sometimes attraction grows through getting to know someone, and that's perfectly fine. And I never had a problem with the fact that he said, I'm not, you know, that he wasn't attracted to her. I didn't think he should have said it. It's just how you go about it. And it's okay if attraction needs to grow. But, you know, now he kind of shot himself in the foot, because where they could have been further along and she would have been more confident, now she is apprehensive. And, you know, it's kind of maybe stalling the relationship a little bit, but rightfully so, because she doesn't want to get in so deep, and then now she's left to deal with this thing by herself. And who knows, like, can we trust Mitch at this point? I don't know. I don't. Because he swung so far left, and now he's swinging far right. Who knows if he doesn't swing far left again? So I like her poise. I like that she is very, you know, intentional about what she's doing and is setting boundaries. I love when she said, I'm the captain now. I love that, because listen, you messed up, so now I can't put my trust all in you. I gotta protect myself, and for the, you know, strength of this relationship, if it goes further, like, let's do it this way. I love that they did that. I love that she met up with Alexis, and I thought that dynamic was so great. I thought that Alexis gave her great advice. Alexis is like, listen, you got to answer that for yourself. Only Krysten knows. Like, I like that Alexis is kind of direct. I am that way as well. But I love that she said, you know, some maybe, you know, maybe he will be able to see what a beautiful gem you are, essentially, is what she said. Like I was with Justin. I love that she was able to give it to her straight, but also soften and kind of support her, which is what she really needed. Last note on Krysten and Mitch, but more so Krysten, that was the way that Krysten kind of set up the story for her and Mitch when it was with the ladies is a beautiful and perfect example of how, especially new people, how you need to set it up when you're about to discuss your spouse, maybe not in the best light, because they've only known each other 5 minutes, even though they're really connected by this experience. And it's easy to just say, I don't like someone. And really, you always have to remember that you're the only one in love with your spouse. So if you're not discussing it with someone who is truly mature and is supportive of the marriage, then it's very easy for people to get really like team you or team them, and then don't like your spouse, and then it becomes very uncomfortable. And then it's like, well, this person's not going to choose you. They're always going to choose their spouse. So then it becomes this thing. It's really important to set the boundary, or to know that the people you're talking to, or the person you're talking to, is going to be objective, going to love you, going to want you to be treated well, but going to be able to say, hey, you're wrong. Love you, but you're wrong. Or I don't like that your spouse did that. What, maybe you should do this to change that, or to work on that, or whatever, instead of getting all emotional and not being able to give you like logical support that can help you in your marriage. Because once you start having to worry about your friends and family and how they feel, then it becomes this thing that is not beneficial. So I loved that that Krysten was like, you guys have to be team Mitch, because I'm team Mitch. I'm in my marriage. I'm here. I want this marriage to work. So despite what I tell you, you guys have to be team Mitch. I love that she did that, because here's the thing. They don't have to be anything, right? They can choose to be what they want to be, but you are setting the boundary. So it's like, listen, if I tell you this and you come at me crazy with my husband, it's not going to be me and you, because I already told you. I still love my husband, or I want to be in this marriage, and I need your support. I don't need you to make me feel bad, or make me feel like I have to choose, or make me feel like if I tell you something, now you're trash talking, or you're unable to be mature and help me and support us. Because next time I come, I'm coming with my husband, and we will be here together as a unit. And the person who will be left out is not going to be him, Now, that's kind of like the larger frame of what happens in marriages. With this, it's a little different because they just met, but the rules are still the same in terms of setting that boundary, especially with new people. Obviously, if you have a best friend or whatever, you guys already kind of know that. But I love that. I love watching her kind of say that and setting the tone, because you teach people how to treat you, you teach people how to treat your marriage, you teach people how to treat your spouse. So they know that there is clear lines there, then they're not, they're more than likely not going to cross it. All right. That is it. I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was really good. I'm excited to see them go back to real life and see how that works out. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought. As always, don't forget to comment, subscribe, and like, and get the card game, you guys. I'm really excited about it. All right, everyone, have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week.